Hey friends, welcome to Artistry Studio. Today we bring you Tooltip Tuesday where we'll be discussing colored pencils. Stay tuned.
Imagining a world creatively with artistry.
Let's start by looking at a few pictures I've drawn with colored pencil. This is a story I wrote, about 10 years ago, and the whole book is illustrated with colored pencils. I love the smooth results that you can get if you use colored pencils correctly. And today I'd like to show you how I use them to blend and shape. First, we should talk about paper texture. So when you're using colored pencils, your pencil is made of a waxy material and it covers the top of the paper and then it kind of forms a wax layer, and you don't want a paper that has a lot of texture. So this paper, I'm not sure if you can see in the video. Yeah, there we go. It's a very textured paper. This is great for watercolor, but it is not so great for colored pencil. It's going to leave a lot of bumps and holes in your coloring. So I like to use a smoother textured paper. Printer paper works pretty well, so if that's what you have on hand, go ahead and use that. Next, I don't have any newspaper on hand, but it really helps in your colored pencil technique if you have a newspaper underneath your paper while you're working. So I've just grabbed a few sheets of paper to stick underneath it. Gives it some padding. To save some time, I went ahead and started coloring this picture, but I'm going to take you back and show you the process that I used. All right, so now I'm going to give you a little bit better of an explanation of how I did that. When using colored pencils, I like to start light and cover evenly an entire area. So I'm going to use this blue first, and you'll see I'm using pretty small strokes and just trying to get an even texture. If you're coloring on a surface other than paper, you're going to pick up some of the texture of whatever that surface is from underneath. Say you're working on a piece of wood and you're coloring, you're going to get the texture of wood right underneath. So be sure you're using a smooth surface. All right, I have a pretty even coat. Now I'd like to go a little bit darker with it. You should note if you color really heavily the first pass, once you get a solid layer of wax on your paper, you cannot change the color. So I like to start lightly and work my way up so that I don't lock in this like big solid mass of color if I don't like it exactly the way it is. All right, now you never want to brush away crumbs with your hand because if you brush those crumbs with your finger, they can actually smear and draw on your paper. So I like to use a clean, dry paintbrush to brush the crumbs off the page. It usually protects the paper pretty well. All right, the next thing I do is I take a lighter color that is similar to the one that I've already colored with, and I try to press a little harder to fill in some of the white areas that are left between the pencil markings. Now, if you're pressing firmly enough, you'll see that the little gaps between the colors seem to be shrinking away, and that's great. You'll also notice that your arm muscles are starting to get sore. The more I color, the little bit sore my arm is. And last, when I'm coloring a section, I like to use my secret weapon, white colored pencil. You might think it's funny that white colored pencil would be my secret weapon, but I'm going to tell you I have used more full sticks of white colored pencil than any other color that I own. I have backups. I never want to run out of white, and this is why. It really helps to blend the colors on a final pass, and it doesn't do a whole lot to change the tone of the color. Really gives it a clean look. So there you go. That's my secret tip of the day. White. All right, that's blended pretty well. And the last thing I do, if there's no background behind my section that I've colored, and I like to go around the edge of my drawing one last time with white, kind of blend and smooth so that it doesn't have any rough texture around the edge. All right, I'll just finish coloring this picture and you can see what it looks like at the end. All right, and that is it.
Thank you for joining us for today's Tool Tip Tuesday. I hope you had fun and learned something new. Keep on creating.